Ms. Sexton, thank you so much for being here. You hung on to a drawing that George Floyd, who back then you called Perry, made along with an essay for 38 years, and you have it today with you. Can you show us this?
Here's his drawing.
And tell us about this. What is this drawing, and what was your assignment?
Well, one of my favorite memories of Perry involves his report for Black History Month. Each day in the month of February, we studied a different famous Black American. And as a culmination to that study, I posed the question to my students, how will you impact the future? What will you do to make a difference? So in response, each student wrote a story or an essay called Future Famous Americans and described their aspirations.
What George Floyd, again, who you at that time and his family called Perry, said was, when I grow up, I want to be a Supreme Court judge. When people say, Your Honor, he did rob the bank, I will say, be seated. And if he doesn't, I will tell the guard to take him out. Then I will beat my hammer on the desk. Then everybody will be quiet. Why did this particular drawing and his essay stick with you for so long that you wanted to hang on to it?
Well, each year my class would do 2 or 3 big major projects. And I always kept one of those projects. And often it was this Black History project because I always asked the boys and girls what they wanted to be when they grew up. This was often the project I kept. So I don't only have Perry's work. I taught at Douglas for 24 years. And so I have hundreds of papers like this.
Seeing that this second grader, at 8 years old, wanted to be a Supreme Court justice, and then, of course, the, tragic irony that he wants to be on the highest court in the land and he dies at the hands of law enforcement is, so profoundly sad. And what was your reaction when you realized that the person in that video that we all watched was your student?
Just a really deep down sadness. I think so many of us have had that response. Just devastation and sadness, just a really deep down sadness. And my heart breaks for his family. And, how could we have known that the little boy the little 8-year-old who drew this precious, delightful picture about justice and wanting to be a justice 38 years later his life would be taken. Sadly, I'm sure this isn't the way that he envisioned being famous or bringing justice.
Certainly not, since that was his aspiration at 8 years old, that he wanted to be on the Supreme Court. How do you remember him as an 8-year-old? Was he a hopeful kid?
Yes, he was. He was quiet. He didn't talk a lot. He was already that long, lanky little boy. We did a lot of singing and dancing in our classroom, and he enjoyed all of that. He enjoyed his friends. He was a good boy. He was a delight to have in the classroom.
Well, Wynell Sexton, thank you for sharing that with us. I mean, it is just, again, profoundly sad to watch, someone so young and the hopes that they have for the direction they hope their life will go in, and then to know what happened 38 years later. Thank you very much for sharing the drawing and the story with us.
You're so welcome.